husband started. I'm called upon to talk about political prisoners, prisoners of war, and exiles, and why it's important that they are a conscious part of our struggle. Rose mentioned the prison industrial complex, and I will just simply say on my way to my assigned topic that women of color generally, African women in particular, have for a number of years been the largest, fastest growing segment of the prison population. And that has meant, contributed to the destruction and dismantling of our community, because as much as we like to think we might be a patriarchal people, we really are matriarchal.
I know that's right.
And as unfortunate as it is, when a brother gets locked down, that's a brother, and yes, the family is there to support. But when a sister gets locked down, the kids go one way, and the elders go the other way, and what support system is there for the brother is not there for the mother.
I know that's right.
So let me just say that while the spectrum ranges from the Kimber Smith situations where she becomes the mule that gets the time for his drugs, to the rare instances where the sister is her own entrepreneur, and they are rare. In fact, it's so rare that it makes the news when it happens. To instances, and with greater frequencies, where sisters are being prosecuted and incarcerated for food stamp fraud, for other kinds of public benefits, frauds, or that is referred to as fraud. What I want to talk about is the political prisoner who has made a conscious decision to do some of those things in the interest of the survival and the advancement of the total movement, and thus of our people. Political prisoners being those prisoners who have taken political actions in resistance to the system. Prisoners of war without the use of force. Prisoners of war being those persons who have engaged in political activity inclusive of the use of force. And exiles, those people who may be both, but who have, for reasons that they have determined, have decided to go into exile. We know the names of any number of persons who fit into those categories. However, I'm not going to call any of them, and the reason that I'm not going to call any of them is because I believe that it is essential that we begin to recognize the fact that political prisoners, prisoners of war, and exiles are a component of our struggle for the liberation of our people. I was struck by the various t-shirts downstairs. I collect t-shirts. And this was one that I was particularly impressed by.
What does it say? The Palestinian, the Zapatista, the mother, and the Piquetero. I don't know what Piquetero is.
The Piqueteros are the protesters in Argentina. They came into, they responded to the economic crisis under Menem in Argentina when the Argentine, I believe it's a dollar, Argentine dollar, it was so devalued that even the Indian independence movement had an armed formation. We never hear about that. We only hear about Mahatma Gandhi and how he, walked around with a stick. However, there not only was there an armed force, but there was a women's section of that force as was, of course, the case in Cuba and has been across the board and is the case in the United States. The importance of political prisoners, prisoners of war, and of exiles is that they indicate the substance and the authenticity of a struggle. Let me say that again. They indicate the substance. If a movement has substance, it's going to have political prisoners. It's going to have prisoners of war, and it's going to have exiles.
Yeah.
Because what they are engaged in is by definition activity which is inconsistent, violative, and by all standards of the prevailing powers that be, criminal. So not only do we have to decriminalize them, rehumanize them, but we have to release them. That is our obligation. Our failure to assume our responsibility to do so undermines the validity of any movement that we claim to have, any righteous demand that